Darrel Chaney, good to see you, sir.
Great to see you, Tyler. Thanks for coming up to Helen here.
Absolutely. So, Darrel is a two-time World Series champion with Cincinnati Reds. And first off, Darrel, if you could just give me a brief synopsis of your career and just for my people that haven't seen our first interview.
Well, I don't have a highlight film, so I was the #2 pick of the Reds back in 1966, right out of high school, and had a lot of football scholarship offers to play against that. But my first love was playing baseball, and I grew up idolizing Ernie Banks, and got a story in my book about my relationship with Ernie all the years. So got picked #2 by the Reds, and went to Rookie League for a couple months, and then went to winter ball, and then the next year made the jump to AA ball, and then went into the Army for most of that season, '67, and then got out, went to winter ball again, and then got to spring training, and had a pretty good spring, and they put me back at AA ball, and played for Sparky Anderson in the minor leagues, Nashville, North Carolina in 1968, and we won the pennant, and the next year I made the big leagues. So it was a short minor league career, to say the least, and I didn't hit much in my minor league career. I didn't hit much in my major league career either, but did something enough to get to the big leagues. And so I think it was all a part of I was in the right place at the right time. The Reds needed a guy that could play more than one infield position, and I could do that. And so I got to the big leagues at the age of 21 and hung around for 11 years and got to play in 3 World Series and 4 National League Championship Series, and it was a great time. You know, the older I get, the more I reminisce. You know, and then things come back to mind when I'm on some of these social media pages that are historians about the Reds or the Braves, and it always brings back these memories. And so I kind of join these pages and chime in a little bit, you know, get this old timer in there to say something. So, you know, my career was probably less than marquee for sure, but I know there's millions and millions of guys my age who, when they were kids my age, would have loved to have traded places with me. So, and you know, I don't know, maybe a lot of major leaguers take it for granted for a while that when they make it to the big leagues, okay, they're in the big leagues, and look at me, I'm a great guy, and all that kind of stuff. But I don't, you know, I don't take it for granted. Even though I've had people all the time say, well, if you could have hit, you'd have stayed in the big leagues longer. And I said, well, how many years do you have in the big leagues? So you know, I was there for longer than most guys, and don't take that for granted, and having an opportunity to tell people when I'm being interviewed and things that I played on arguably one of the greatest teams ever. I wasn't one of the great 8 that we had on that team, but I was there, and I got the same rings that those guys got. So it's been a fun ride. I hope the Lord gives me a few more years to keep talking about it and using the platform that I had as a former Major League Baseball player to make some money for charity.
For sure. We're going to talk about that charity in just a second, so hang around for that. But you mentioned him, and I got to ask about him, Sparky Anderson. Can you just talk to me a little bit about how he was in the dugout and how he was as, you know, with a personal relationship with him? Great manager on a great team, too.
When I first played for him, he was only 34 years old, I believe, maybe younger than that. Might have been 32 in AA ball. And he was like a big brother to all the guys back then. And in the minor leagues back in those days, everybody was not making any money, and we all hung around together. We all lived in the same apartment complexes that we could afford, and things like that. And Sparky kind of managed us in AA ball like we were his little brothers. And I thought that was kind of neat. Now, when he got to the big leagues a couple of years later, it kind of changed because he knew coming in that he had some real horses that just really fell into his lap. I tell people honestly, Dave Bristol helped build that Big Red Machine, and Dave's a good friend of mine, and Dave took me to the big leagues. But when Sparky got there, he knew that it was going to be a pretty easy lineup card to make out every day, and all he had to do was just make sure everybody got along, which he was really good at. And you know, the bottom line was he was smart. He managed that club. I think he did he did a great job managing the pitching staff. Back then, we didn't have anything that we called a closer, but he kind of began that process. He would bring pitchers in 5th, 6th, 7th innings and mix them up and match guys up and everything. And that's the unsung part of those great Cincinnati Reds teams. We had really good pitching. And Sparky knew how to manage that pitching staff. He really, really did. The other guys, he'd just write their name down: Rose, Bench, Morgan, Perez. Pretty easy to do, you know. Got a chance to win the game. So, but he was really good. He's really good at very strategical. He thought way ahead of time about when to bring a pitcher in or get a pitcher up and ready to face a certain hitter.
You mentioned that you guys didn't really have a closer, but one of the guys I've interviewed on my channel is Rodney Eastwick. How influential was he when he got to the big leagues?
Well, you know, he was only a couple of years behind me when he was coming up, and then when he got there, I think his first year was '75 when we won the championship that year, the World Series that year. He kind of was like our closer. But gosh, we had Clay Carroll who could close, Will McEnany who could close, we had Pedro Barbone who could close, and but Raleigh was one pitch away in the 1975 World Series, one pitch away from being the MVP of that World Series. He had Bernie Carbo with no balls and 2 strikes, and Bernie hits that home run off of him. For all of you historians out there, go look it up. He'd have been the MVP of the because he already had a couple saves in that World Series. He could throw hard, throw strikes, and nothing bothered him. A cool cat. And he was kind of like he won the Fireman of the Year the next year in '76. So he was like that's when the closing talk really started back then. So yeah, but Sparky knew how to use those guys. He really, really did. And he could set it up really well.
You had a lot of great teammates with a lot of talent, but who are some of the guys that you remember just being fun to be around?
Well, my old roommate, Jack Billingham, one of my roommates. I seemed like I roomed with everybody. I don't know. Jack it was hard to room with Jack because everybody that roomed with Jack got traded the next year. And sure enough, I roomed with him in '75, and I got traded the next year. But Jack and I roomed together during that World Championship team in 1975, and we had a ball. And we still talk all the time. He comes to my golf tournament all the time. He contributes everything, and he's in the Reds Hall of Fame. So I got a chance to still rub elbows with a guy like that. I have, Doug Flynn and I have maintained a long-time relationship too. It's hard to, excuse me, when you go, when you get out of the game and you go your own way and you got to go to work, and most of us had to go get real jobs when we were done playing. Hard to stay in touch with everybody that you played with. That's why the alumni weekends and the old timer games are so much fun. With the Braves, I had a real good relationship, still do today, with a pitcher named Craig Skoke. I only played with him 2 years, and Craig and I started doing the Major League Baseball player alumni celebrity golf tournaments when we got out of the game, and we ran that tournament down there for 19 years before I started doing this one 17 years ago. We've had I've got a real good strong relationship with him, but as we get older, he's still working. Yeah. I'm not. And you try to catch up with these guys. Well, how's Pat doing, Craig? Well, she had surgery the other day. So it's hard to stay in touch with guys and find out what's really going on in their lives. But those are the guys that come to mind most of all. Of course, Niekro, he's everybody's best friend, it seems like. But I cherish the time and the relationship that I've had with him, and what he's done for me over the years. He's just a great guy. It's really neat though when you have a guy that's a friend of yours that's in the Hall of Fame, but when you're with him, you wouldn't know it. When you're out fishing with him and you're casting a line out and he's cracking a joke, and it's just my buddy Phil Niekro. It's not my buddy the Hall of Famer Phil Niekro.
I'll add to that. I've met Phil a few times, and he's always been very humble, very, very friendly to me, and he surely didn't have to be. Yeah. He's just always been. I
know he does a lead-in on your show a lot. You're listening to Tyler Redmond. He took the picture up here in Helen. He's just a great guy. He's not, some of these guys that that have had great baseball careers. People don't look beyond that and look into their personal life. They're good people. They're good human beings, and they've done a tremendous amount of charity work. There's not a whole lot of bad apples that played Major League Baseball. They're all good guys.
Well, let's talk about kind of what's going on today. Obviously, you played in a different era of baseball, but these days there's a lot of talk about unwritten rules. Did you ever learn any unwritten rules the hard way?
Well, yeah, maybe I had my first time against Bob Gibson. I'm playing against Bob Gibson. I'm playing second base for Tommy Helms in 1969. We're in St. Louis, and Bob's a real competitor, and this you could call it an unwritten rule, but it was a Bob Gibson rule. And so he struck me out the first 2 times I faced him, and the third time I hit a line drive right back at him, hit him in the knee. He bounced off the mound and threw me out, and I'm jogging back with my head down behind the mound. Rookies, you don't look up when you're going behind the Hall of Fame pitcher like that. And I hear him say, with my head down, I hear him say, "Don't ever do that again, kid." And I get to the dugout, and Pete Rose says to me, he says, "What'd he say to you?" He said, "Don't ever do that again, kid." And Pete gets up on the top of the dugout steps and starts screaming at Gibson, "Gibson, you ain't got nothing." And, he didn't say that, but "You ain't got nothing, leave the kid alone," and all that kind of stuff. I was thinking, wait a minute, Pete, I got maybe one more swing at this guy. Sure enough, my next time up in the top of the 9th inning, first pitch, he hits me right here. I mean, I couldn't run away from it. He and he did it on purpose. Yeah. He knows it. I know it. Everybody at both clubs knew it. Everybody in the stands knew it, and it hurt. I got to first base, and our first base coach, Hal Smith, said, "Don't let him know it hurts." And I'm thinking, okay, I won't. And knocked the wind out of me and everything, But these other unwritten rules that you're hearing about today, you can't swing at a 3-0 pitch with the bases loaded. Oh, come on. I'd have loved to have a chance to swing at a 3-0 pitch, but the bases loaded. Most of the time when the bases were loaded, Sparky would say to me, "Take 2 strikes." So I only get one chance to get a pitch to hit. And I hit a grand slam home run one time, and the count was 2-0, and I looked back to the dugout thinking Sparky was going to give me the take sign. But I was looking for a pitch right down the middle that I could handle, and I hit it out for a grand slam. But I don't like a young ball player. He's aggressive. He's really, really good. The pitcher has a decision to make. He didn't have to throw it right down the middle to him. He did, though. And so I can't fault him for that. Now, some of these other things, when, you're ahead 10-0 and you got some, Speedy Gonzalez on first base and he wants to steal second, that'll raise some hairs on the back of your neck and change some things. So, but, in today's game, when every time a player's up at the plate, his hands are at the bottom of the bat, and you know what he's trying to do, trying to jack one out. You don't see the hit and run much anymore. The bunt, the sacrifice bunt. We witnessed last night a poor attempt at doing a sacrifice in a Braves game. Today's players, as much they approach the game, they play the game a lot differently than we do. You don't see a hit and run anymore. If I didn't know how to bunt and try and make contact and choke up on the bat with 2 strikes, I wouldn't have been in the big leagues for 11 years. I had to choke up, make contact, maybe pop out, but I didn't strike out. And today, a strikeout doesn't mean a whole lot to anybody. Back in my day, you struck out too many times, you're gone.
Well, let's talk about the strikeouts. The Braves have struggled with strikeouts a lot this year. What would be your advice, or how would you approach it if you needed to change that on a team?
Now, this is advice coming from a guy who's had a lifetime .217 batting average. But it's pretty simple to me, especially in today's game when they put the shift on. And I'll use Ender Inciardi for an example. A guy can run, 200 hits a couple years ago, can steal bases. He has not attempted a drag bunt yet this year. So they call him to squeeze to a sacrifice bunt last night. He couldn't do it. My thought would be, if the shift is on, choke up on the bat and just punch the ball the other way. I.e., Freddie Freeman can do it with anybody, as good as anybody. But he's choked up on the bat all the time. These guys, if they want to make more contact, that's one of the ways to do it. Choke up on the bat a little bit, shorten your swing, and just punch it somewhere. If you're striking out 15 times a game, Chip Carey says this quite often. If you're striking out 15 times a game, ladies and gentlemen, that is 5 innings of nobody on base, 5 innings of no contact. Now, you're getting an old guy on a soapbox, but, it's game after game after game. Yeah. And it's team after team after team. It's not just the Braves. Everybody's striking out a lot, but everybody likes to hit the home run. So That's what I do. I mean, if I'm the hitting coach, I'm thinking, look, bunt. Brett Butler got with the Braves. He got 30 hits a year bunting the ball. You know, 30. That's 30 for 30.
Sure is.
What if he struck out those 30 times? That's 0 for 30. And so it's pretty simple. It's pretty simple. And last night, was it last night's game? I believe it was. Yes, the Phillies had a sacrifice bunt attempt, and they got a guy at the plate that can really fly. He bunts the ball right back to the pitcher, beats it out at first base, right? And they ended up getting a run. That bunt set up that run. Dave Bristol used to always say, a bunt can not only get you one run, it could get you a bunch of runs. Because if that guy that's bunting gets the guys over in scoring position, then you got Perez coming up, you got Bench coming up, you got Morgan coming up, and a bunt can turn into a lot of runs. But man, you just don't see it anymore. And it disappoints me. I still watch baseball a lot every night. I can. But I sit there in my chair, I'm thinking, gee whiz, I can't believe they don't bunt the ball anymore. I don't believe they don't hit and run the ball anymore. I don't believe you got to slide straight into second base and you can't touch that shortstop or second baseman coming across the bag. You'll be kicked out of the game. Shoot, I got knocked into left field I don't know how many times. So, but it was fun. It was fun playing the game that way.
Well, you know, you had your career years back, but now your grandson also has a career with the Angels. How proud are you to see that, and how is he developing right now? He's in the minor leagues, which there's not really a minor league right now.
Yeah.
How is he? Is he struggling to develop with that going on?
No, not him. Chase Chaney is his name. My son's son, Keith, played 2 years for the Braves in the minor leagues as well, signed out of college. So we've got 3 generations of Chaneys playing pro ball that have played pro ball, and I'm so proud. Here's what's going on in the minor leagues today. Chase is a pitcher. He could have signed as an infield if you ask me, because the guy could hit. But he signed as a pitcher, and he loves it. So when they cancel spring training for the minor leaguers, they all come home. Yeah. And to the end of June, they paid these kids. Now, they ain't making much money, but they paid them. This is one of the things that really rubs me wrong with Major League Baseball today. It wouldn't take a whole lot of money to pay all these minor leaguers. I'm told that if he plays for the Angels, if the Angels came up with $1 million, they could have paid all their minor leaguers in their system from June to the end of the season, which ends September 2nd, right? But they didn't. Instead, they're going out and buying cutouts and putting them in the stands. Money well spent. So Chase comes home, and the Angels, and I really like the organization. The Angels put him on a program. Now, when they first put him on the program, you manage yourself. Now, how many 19, 20-year-old kids are going to stick to a program when nobody's watching? Well, Chase knows what to do, and he works out. He's doing the program. So now when baseball starts again, and the minor league coaches who can't come and see him, they can't work with him or anything, but they can communicate. They've got an organization in the Atlanta area where a bunch of minor leaguers are working out together under some supervision. And I don't know if the guys that are supervisors are getting paid by baseball or not. I don't know. But for instance, Chase will have a throwing session, and they'll tape the throwing session, and he'll be pitching against. He struck a kid out the other day. It was the Texas Rangers minor league player of the year. Struck him out 3 times, buckled his knee. So they film that, and then they send it off to the California guys, the scouts, and then they have a Zoom meeting, and they put this up on the Zoom, and they critique Chase on a Zoom meeting. That's the best they can do now. Yeah. But he's not getting paid. Now, they got a lot of money invested in him, but he still wants to make some money, so he's working at a golf course. He's turning into a pretty good golfer as a result of this. He can bomb it. So he's working out probably 6 days a week. 3 are probably the sessions, 3 or 4 are sessions that are organized with the guys watching them, and the other, he lifts weights and stuff on his own on a weightlifting program that the Angels put him on. So if you've got if he's working out 6 days out of 7, that's what all the minor leaguers should be doing under some kind of a program nowadays. I don't know how many are though, but I know Chase is. So, gosh, if they could, and he's really improved. His fastball has gone from, he's topped out at 91, 92 in high school. He's now topping out at 94. He thinks he's going to get to 95 by spring training. Got a really good changeup and a slider he's really improved on his pitches. It hurts me to see that he can't throw it in real live competition in A-ball or double A-ball. So he'll have to wait, and hopefully they'll have spring training next year where these kids can do something. But he's only 20, so they've got time to still develop a kid like this, even with COVID going on. Yeah. You know, a lot of baseball clubs, when this hit, they released 40, 50 minor leaguers. And a lot of those guys they released were probably middle 20s or late 20-year-old guys that were making more money, that they just didn't, one more year, their age going to go, and so they just let them go. They released them. And the Angels released, I think it was 30 pitchers, and 25 of them were right-handers. Well, Chase is a right-hander. And in today's game, especially if they stick with the DH in the National League going forward, that's just another spot for a pitcher. They'll just bring more pitchers in there, and the way the game's going, your starting pitcher goes 5, and you got one guy to do the 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th. So I think it's a good time to be young and be a pitcher.
For sure.
So we're hopeful that he'll continue to follow his dream, and boy, it'd be neat to. I saw something the other day that I thought was really neat. It was a replay of last year when Carl Yastrzemski came back for the 50th year of when he started his career in Boston, and his grandson, the Giants were in town playing the Red Sox, and so Carl threw out the first pitch to his grandson, and they hugged and everything. I'm thinking, geez, that's a Hall of Famer doing it with his grandson, but man, I'd love to have that chance with my son there too.
Well, you gave a really good inside look that fans haven't really been able to see. Within the minor league program. Obviously, we can't really go see a AAA game right now. You can't really see what's going on within an organization. So it's really good that you gave that just an inside look, because maybe the Braves are doing something like that. But also, I really like that analogy you gave with Yastrzemski. That would be really cool. And I know you're so proud of Chase, and of course your other grandkids too that are doing so well. But I want to talk about your charity real quick before we go. United Way of White County. We're in Helen, Georgia right now. We're at the Hotel Holiday Inn where the tournament takes place, and I come every year. I really enjoy it. I get to interview guys like Phil Niekro, guys like Chief Nakahoma, guys that are just really
Ralph
friendly.
Boston.
Yeah, Ralph Boston.
It was great too.
Just one after another, just really great celebrities. How much does it mean to you that all these celebrities come to this tournament and give their time for such a great charity?
Well, it goes back to my point I made earlier. Most of these professional athletes are good people. I mean, they were great athletes, some greater than others, but they're all really good people. I mean, Ralph Boston comes to this thing every year. For you folks who don't know who Ralph Boston is, he's a great Olympian, and for 25 years held a world record for the long jump. He came up here one year, and the White County High School track team was working out, so he went over there and talked to the White County High School team. They didn't know who he was. They didn't know he was coming. He brought Olympic pins and everything, and once they figured out who he was, they think, man, Ralph Boston's up here in White County talking to us. So it means a lot to me that they want to come here. Bottom line, they want to come here because they want to help. Number two, they come here because they have a great time. They enjoy given an opportunity. Old guys like to get in front of a microphone every now and then and reminisce and say, hey, you remember? Yeah, Tyler asked me that question. That brought back a memory and all that kind of thing. Those are neat things. So we appreciate you being here all these years too. Their wives, the way we do our tournament, I've done these tournaments for so long. When we started doing this one, I said, if we're going to make it a celebrity tournament, they got to involve the wives somehow. So we have the day that the guys are out golfing, and we have female celebrities too that play golf. The spouses are treated to a day. We got a sponsor for the companion outing, we call it. They go wine tasting. They have lunch served for them somewhere. Go walk and hike in the mountains, and they come up here to enjoy the North Georgia mountains, and a lot of them stay an extra day. Carol here at the hotel, the Holiday Inn Suites, for 18 years now has been donating at least 2 nights room for the celebrity and their wives every year. So everybody knows that the bottom line is the goal, and the bottom line is to raise as much money as we can for White County, which is one of the poorest counties in the state of Georgia, and always has been. I mean, I've been living up here 20 years, and it has been. So, and the money that we raise with our event is well over half of the budget for United Way, and United Way has 18 agencies in the area up here that it supports. So we're helping a lot of people. This isn't one of those events either where we fly guys in and treat them, and all expenses paid, and we end up at the bottom line being real low. We don't fly anybody in. They get here on their own, and once they're here, we try to do the best we can to take care of them. So the money that we raise, which isn't like just to compare a Michael Jordan celebrity tournament where it's millions and millions of dollars. Our goal is to raise over $60,000 a year. That's $1 million in White County, Georgia for United Way. It's really how much that means to this community. So when we got involved in it, we thought that we could do good and improve things for a lot of people up here. And when we started making 17 years ago, we made it the first year of the celebrity. We had 36 guys up here, and now we got to turn some celebrities away because they don't return their invitation on time. And so we create a waiting list for them. So, I'm proud to be a part of this thing, and it's something that the Lord's put on my heart a long time ago. Because when the day is done, when I'm dead and I stand in front of the Lord, hopefully He won't count my batting average. He'll count what this event means to a lot of people and helping their lives matter.
For sure. You said you're a part of it, but it's now called the Darrel Chaney United Way Golf Tournament. I'm going to mention it because I know he won't. But you've been so good to this tournament. You've given a lot to it, and a lot of other people have too. But how much? Obviously, with coronavirus, it got canceled this year. How much of an impact financially has that done to United Way of White County?
Well, it's really hurt. Matter of fact, we canceled it twice. We postponed it in April, thinking we could pull it off in August, and it wasn't the most. It wasn't the right thing to do. We just too risky. So when they named it the Darrel Chaney Invitational, I was honored and surprised. I told the committee, I said, usually a guy's dead when you do that. You name something after him, I said, well, I'm still alive. That's great. So when we ended up having to totally cancel it, we could have tried one more time, but Oktoberfest up here is so we couldn't get the hotel rooms, and it just wasn't going to happen. So we need the money so badly. And I don't know when you're going to run this, but when we need money so badly, we're looking for donations, monetary donations, and people can get a hold of me or Tyler to make a donation. We're also going to have in October, we got a meeting on Friday the 28th of August. We're going to organize, within the tournament, we have a live and silent auction and raffle. We're still going to have that. We're going to try and have it outdoors, social distance, outdoors, at the Salatina Coochie Community Center. They've donated the property to us. If it rains, we got an indoor facility there. And we're going to try and still have our auction and raffle and try and make some more money for United Way. But let me tell you what's happened up here. When we had to cancel the tournament finally, you think, some teams will pay their money when they get here. And we know them, we know they're good for their money, and so forth. Some teams will pay for their money up front. They want to make sure they get a spot in the tournament because we sell out every year. Every player that had put their money up, except one, every player said, keep my money. Every sponsor said, keep my money. Our title sponsor, gunbroker.com, Steve Irvin, who at the end of the day is good for about $20,000 a year for our tournament. First thing he said was, keep the money. His money comes in. We had the money since April for the April tournament. So I put a little announcement in the local papers up here saying, we've had a great response to the cancellation of the tournament because sponsors, if people want to make a contribution, here's how you do it. And we've had that happen. I've had celebrities send me checks. Dave Bristol, Jim Poole. I mean, I'm not talking about here's a check for $25. I'm talking about really helping out. And it kind of goes to show the hearts that people have that come up here and get involved in this thing. Everybody that has these tournaments, they've got good people working with them. My heart's up here, and the people that put this thing on, that have put it on for the last 17 years, most of them, and the core group that we have in our committee, have been doing it for 17 years. And so it's great to know that you're having an impact on so many lives. And I keep telling the celebrities that every year. You may not think coming up here is a big deal, and you're having a good time, but I'm telling you, you're saving some lives, you're impacting lives, and that's really important. They know that. So it's a good thing. And April 19th and 20th of 2021 is our next scheduled event. Good Lord willing, we'll have that vaccine by then, and we'll be up here. And we appreciate you and all the times you come up and interview these guys. And I know you did Nakahoma recently. Y'all keep Chief Nakahoma in your prayers. He's a wonderful mascot for the past of the Braves, and he's got more stories than I can tell because he was there for so long. So, but he lives up here now, and he's going through a rough patch, but he's at this tournament every year. The first year we had this tournament, I didn't know he was even coming. I didn't invite him. He's still living up in Michigan, and he shows up. He shows up the first year of the tournament, and I said, "How'd you find out about this?" He said, "Oh, I got some Indian friends that live down here and so forth." And he's been here every single year.
In full regalia, in full Indian garb, he's here.
The first year, we were Carol's Hotel owners owned the Best Western in town here. The chief had his outfit on, and he walked out on the main street, Helen, and he making his noises and stuff, and he's pointing over there. We had big United Way signs hanging up, like, "This is where you need to go. Come on in and stay at this hotel." He's standing out in the middle of the street. I love Chief Nakahoma.
I do too. He's a great friend of mine. But Darrel, where can people go one more time to donate and basically find out more information about United Way of White County?
Okay, this is really simple, and there's all kinds of tabs on this website where you can go to get in touch with a P.O. box to mail in a check or whatever, and you can keep an eye on our event and what we're doing. It's www.unitedwaywhitecounty.org. All lowercase, unitedwaywhitecounty.org. And we'll soon, after next Friday, we'll soon have some announcements on the raffle that we're going to do, but we'll also keep people up to date on how we're going into next year's event. And then there's a lot of pictures and history and interviews. A lot of your stuff's on there from past events. It's really a nice little place to visit if you want to see some celebrities. It's we've had some really neat guys come up here.
Yeah, most of my following is Braves fans. I mean, Bobby Cox, Leo Mazzoni, Brian Jordan. I want to say Klesko came up here a few years ago. A lot of those former guys came up here. So go check out that website. Go do that. Donate to United Way of White County. And Darrel, I just want to thank you for your time. Is there anything else you want to say?
No, it's other than your life matters, ladies and gentlemen. Your life matters. It matters up here in North Georgia. If you want to help out, we'll be glad to take your donation of any kind. And thanks for listening to all these stories.
Thank you, Darrel. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Darrel Chaney. I'm a former baseball player for the Atlanta Braves and Cincinnati Reds, and I'm talking to you from up here in Helen, Georgia, where I host an annual golf celebrity tournament called the Darrel Chaney Invitational. This year, with COVID, we've run into some problems like everybody else has. Times are tough, and we postponed our tournament in April, and we ended up canceling it on our rescheduled date in August. So we're in dire need of some support and some money. I know it's tough times for everybody, but if you have the knack, the need, the desire, the heart, and a little extra cash, we'd love to have an opportunity to take your pledge, take your donation. Our website is www.unitedwaywhitecounty.org. And I'll tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to leave you my cell phone number, 770-715-1599. Now, I expect if you call me on that number, we're not going to just have a nice time and chat a little bit. When you call me on that number, if you don't show up as a regular caller for me, I expect you to make a donation. Is that okay? That a good deal? But we'll talk a little baseball if you want then as well. Your life matters because God says it does, and whatever you can do for United Way will matter. Thank you.